Hello, I'm Brendan Schnorr, class of 2018, here with Father Brendan McAleer, class of 2007. We're going to ask him a few questions.
Good to be here.
What activities did you participate at Notre Dame?
While at Notre Dame, I wrestled on the wrestling team all 4 years. I was also a football player, so I played outside linebacker and fullback, and I wrestled mostly at 171 and 189 towards the end of the year. I was also in the Irish Club. I was a runner for Miss Karlowitz, the attendance runner. And I saw in the picture for Mass, for one of the collage pictures, that it says I was in an Italian club, but I would just jump in different photos for different clubs. I was never in an Italian club, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
What made you want to become a priest?
Well, I think it's, the reason you decide to finally become a priest is always different from the reason you initially kind of joined. I think when I was in high school, I kind of, in my mind and in prayer, I kind of decided, I started to prioritize my life. I'm like, I do really care about God and the big questions of life. I care about my family and friends. I'm like, so what would that look like to kind of become, the best I can be in those kinds of areas? And in my family, especially my mom cultivated a culture of religious practice. I mean, we'd pray the rosary, and we go to Mass. I was homeschooled till 2nd grade, so we would go to daily Mass when I was little, every single day. And then before I went to school in 3rd grade at St. Emily's. So I think it was never a negative thing. The idea of priesthood was never negative. It was always like a positive thing that my family respected, and it was but it was never pushed upon me. And it just kind of started with an idea, kind of being intrigued, doing my own little research. And then, once Father Conyers asked me the question and made it real, and then I just kind of took it one step at a time. And there's a saying, I saw an interview with a priest, Father Greg Boyle, and he was asked, he's done a lot in California, and he's been a priest for years. And they're like, when did you know you wanted to be a priest? And he said, the day I was ordained. So, I mean, it's kind of, you grow into it. It's like married couples, the reason they got married is different than what their marriage looks like 15, 20 years down the road. But so I think that even happened through the process of formation. So there's lots of reasons I want to be a priest, but that's kind of an overview. Yeah.
What does it mean to be a Holy Cross priest? And how is it different?
So there are diocesan priests and religious priests. Diocesan priests stay in a particular area. So like the Archdiocese of Chicago. If you're ordained through Mundelein Seminary, you stay in Chicago. Religious priests, we have particular charisms or gifts that we give to the church. So the Congregation of Holy Cross, we have mission work, parish, and education. And we see ourselves as educators in the faith. So even if we run a parish, we try to do it with almost an angle of education, like as teachers. The same with missionary work, the same as and our actual missionaries that are in Africa and India abroad. So the history of Holy Cross has been starting and maintaining and helping other institutions of learning to thrive and kind of bring a special, bring a special their charism to whatever institutions they're at. They're just not teachers, they're teachers that give their whole life. Like Father Conyers, I was here, with brothers that I was here, religious brothers. They don't clock in and out at the end of the day. Their life is teaching. So I think that really kind of attracted me. And overall, Holy Cross is a unique group of men that when I first came to seminary, I was surprised that they were joyful, hilarious, and just interesting, fascinating, brilliant men of all different kinds of backgrounds and stuff. So that was definitely a draw.
So how could we as a Notre Dame community better express those charisms?
Of education and kind of, I think like when you, especially in college, I think it's a good kind of practice to see yourself as, to really master a material, is to see yourself as someone who teaches it. And kind of, as scholars here in high school, it's not just checking off the box, I have to take this class, I have to take this class, but seeing that God calls us to perfection, to the best of our abilities in every area of our life, athletics, academics. So to bring that level of excellence in everything you do, I think is something that Holy Cross tries to bring to its institutions, and to bringing God into everything you do. So there's not compartmentalizing, there's the spiritual world and God and religion, and then there's science and math or art or whatever. It's, we glorify God through those sciences, through, the humanities, and I think that's one area that makes it unique. Also just a community aspect that is, defines Holy Cross schools. I've been to lots of high schools, Notre Dame High School, and our other high schools that we ran. We ran one in Flushing's, New York, all guys school. Like, you just walk in and you're like, there's a certain feel, a certain culture that I think it comes from a school that was founded by a community itself, and that the school became its home for religious, and now that's a lot smaller numbers, but that kind of spreads to the culture of the place.
At any point of the process, did you regret your decision on becoming a priest?
No. I think, I would always say every day, if I wake up happy and ready to go and take on the day, I'll just keep going. And I think that was it. Are there challenges, difficult days? I mean, going through a 4-year program for just a master's degree at Notre Dame is rigorous, and there's difficult times in that. So I think there are just life happens, not necessarily religious life. But regretting, no, I don't really regret a day that I've had since I joined in 2009.
What was your favorite class here at Notre Dame College?
Oh man.
Your favorite?
And I'm probably, there were so many good classes, but I just saw her class, and I was surprised she still teaches here. Not too surprised, but Ms. Stowiczek taught a sociology class. And I think, when I think of certain classes in high school, and not just hers, that I would continually kind of like bring up or use as illustrations in graduate school. Like, well, I still remember she showed us, I think it was her class. I remember studying like the Zimbardo experiment and all these things. Like, those were like, that was the things we'd learned in that class. I took sociology in college. I'm like, I covered a lot of this stuff in high school, which was kind of showed. Also, Dr. Ellen Dutton's bioethics class. That was a class even, I was able to tell people in graduate school, like, I took bioethics. I mean, a lot of schools don't have that kind of thing. And we watched the movie Gattaca and those kinds of things and those kinds of questions. And I think actually set me, prepared me now for how fast the world's kind of changing in these kind of cultural kind of questions. We kind of started to address those and through the lens of biology and science. So there was a lot of good classes. But those are the two people that kind of popped in my head.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice for students that are doubting their faith, which can happen in high school, teenage years?
Right. I think the problem with faith among not just young people, but adults is we learn the basics of like mathematics or reading when we're young. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. But we keep going, and we take math into higher ed. We advance it, we kind of push the bounds. And same with literature, whatever. Most people stay at a first grade, second grade understanding of their faith. It's like, God made everything and whatever, and it stays at that. And then you grow up and, some things you believe don't match your experience or just seem kind of silly. And there's one priest that said, I forgot, it's a theologian. He was meeting with an atheist, and the atheist was giving his explanation of why he doesn't like religion, and the priest said, yeah, I agree with everything you just said, because that's not God and that's not religion. It's a simplistic child, So I think there's a problem sometimes in our society of these people who just kind of throw out Trump questions when you don't really want to know the answer. You just want to, for the sake of having a response. But for the serious seeker of God, I mean, there are so many resources out there now that really take questions about creation and sin, and so if someone's struggling with those questions, it might be an emotional reason why they don't believe in God. It also might be an intellectual reason, but I would say pursue those questions. Don't be afraid. I mean, because a lot of these questions we have, they've been grappled with by thinkers for 2,000 years, older than multiple, in Judaism and beyond, and the Greeks and philosophy, we kind of think we're unique that we throw these questions up, that we have problems with religion and stuff. Like, people have always had those kinds of questions. So that's one thing. Seek people out. Seek wisdom figures. I mean, I think my first perception of becoming a priest was like, well, it's this journey I go on my own. I'm like, it wasn't the case at all. Seeking advice, asking questions to people that are competent and have your best interest in mind. I think that's one thing. And also, I mean, a lot of people haven't really tried to pray before. Or it's a rote prayer, you know, Our Father's, Hail Marys, which is a fine start. But I think as you move into like maturity, it's like a relationship. Well, there's like the basic stuff, but if you want to deepen that relationship, you need to start speaking to God, putting everything there out on the table, who you are, who you want to be, what are your fears, your doubts, your excitements, your joys. Like, that's a mature relationship with God. And people that have had glimpses of that, they don't, I mean, it's much more of an attractive thing, faith and religion and spirituality. But I don't blame people that don't like religion when they're understanding if it's very kind of simplistic and, you know, God wants to punish you and this, or like it's a big, you know, God winded the clock and threw it out there. Like, yeah. But we believe that God, in the incarnation, so it's not only just God above, but like God became a man, a human, from a human mother, and that changes everything. It changes what it means to be human and what it means to be a person now. And I think sometimes people don't like that. Like, why do I care? Pie in the sky, tomorrow, on clouds when we die or whatever. Like, no. When Jesus rose from the dead, he transformed the world and brought hope. So, I don't know.
Just a few more questions. You went over it a little before. How did Notre Dame College Prep help you in becoming a priest, or did it at all?
It did, so I went on the Kairos retreat, and I'd already started the process of looking into the seminary, and I told none of my friends. So we were in those little small groups. They put you in groups of 4, and I didn't know the other 3 guys. And I shared it with them in the small group, and they're like, you have to tell everyone. And so it was this big dramatic, when you come back, everyone's like, go up there and tell told everyone I was joining, and it really rocked some of my friends' world. I mean, guys that I played sports with, whatever. I think a lot of people thought, we'd be in college together, athletes together, and it was just, it was the first realization, like, oh, this is going to be a sacrifice going forward. Like, I'm saying bye to people. But it's amazing. I think 10 guys came to my ordination, guys that I've been friends with since the beginning, and some of them are at different phases of understanding it or even accepting it, but they, they're my brothers, and they've said that from that night on the retreat. I still remember they all paraded in my room. I was still in bed. They knocked, like, can we talk? And, like 10 of the guys were there. And they kind of just said that, like, we're there for you. We support you in their kind of own way. And they were all there Saturday at Notre Dame. So I think that kind of, and it is a sacrifice for me, like that they've all stayed such good friends because they're in town here and whatever. So the fact that I had to leave for a decade, coming in once in a while, and that bond is still there, and we can bounce back where we were, and there's an acceptance of it, it's been a great gift to me. So I think that's kind of unique. Is that what you kind of asked?
Yes.
So,
do you have any advice for students that are seeking to become priests?
There's a lot of great, first, become a Holy Cross priest, the Congregation of Holy Cross. There's a lot of options, but that's probably your best choice. There are the basics of the faith, that now the basics have become like exceptional kind of things, like try to pray every day. It's probably hard here. I don't know, is there daily mass here?
No.
Okay, well, they should have daily mass here. Really, think of advance when you're going to mass on Sunday, like maybe read the gospel before, kind of get your mind ready of kind of entering into liturgy and prayer, and just to kind of start to take those steps. Find someone that's someone you trust, and they won't put extra pressures on you, that you can start to explore and ask the questions and stuff. If you could find a priest or a religious sister or brother, that's good because I've done it before. But I started testing the waters. I told my friend's mother, who drove me home one day just kind of dropped that on her, and she was great. She didn't have that much to say, but she said, it sounds like a great journey, and she kind of supported me that way. I talked to my brother. Just that first step, that's one of the first steps you could actually do, tell people, because you can see how that feels. Because if you're like, and it just feels wrong, I mean, maybe we can call it another thing, but that's kind of the first kind of stepping out into the deep of, confiding in someone. I know it's not easy when you're in, I remember that. I was like out-of-body experience telling people that I was thinking of the priesthood. So I'd say that. Always find people that you could talk to. Start praying. Start reading. Start taking a couple minutes out of the day. I mean, it's amazing just taking 3 minutes and just sit in silence and just say, what do you want me to do? I mean, that was like, I remember my mother would, in her way, I think we were driving once and she's like, I hope you pray, or something like that. I'm like, you should just be asking God once in a while, show me what you want to do with my life. She didn't say anything about priesthood, but it was getting in towards the end of college, like, what kind of person do you want to be? And I remember the first night laying down in bed, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to get married? Do you want me to go play football somewhere? Do you want me to wrestle? And whatever. And I think a priest told me once, be careful what you pray for. Because you think people, if you open yourself up, like, I'll do with me what you want. Well, here I am.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Brendan Schnorr here with Coleman Ficht and Sam Grillo from the Holy Cross Council. We'd like to thank Father Brendan McAleer for his time. And thank you. Go Downs.
Go Downs.